This book, my most recent book, Epistemology of the Quran, Elements of a Virtue Approach to Knowledge and Understanding, in a way was one of the most important projects of my life. For a long time, I have been trying to figure out how various concepts, epistemic concepts of the Quran relate with each other, and how they, kind of imply and presuppose a systematic epistemology. So from that point of view, I looked at the concept of ilm or knowledge in the Quran, all the verses which mention knowledge, and I compared that concept with some of the contemporary views of knowledge. Then I also looked at the concept of understanding in the Quran, and how understanding presupposes knowledge, propositional knowledge, as a holistic, grasp on the principles of, let us say, a whole discipline like physics, or a whole area like music, or a whole language. We understand a language, we understand music, we understand, let us say, physics, or we understand bioethics. Understanding in this holistic sense, how is it parasitic on knowledge in the propositional sense? Philosophers normally, when they talk about knowledge, they talked about propositional knowledge. I know that she is on the beach. So you have this attitude towards a proposition. And knowledge is basically knowledge that. So it's a knowledge of a proposition. And it's, in a sense, atomistic. Propositions are then related with each other. But, to begin with, each piece of knowledge is, knowledge of a proposition. But understanding, particularly what philosophers call objectual understanding, or holistic understanding, it comprehends more than individual propositions. It comprehends relationships between them, and dependence relationships between various propositions, and it understands, it grasps the relationship between the parts of a system, and how they related to the whole, and how the whole leaves a logical and conceptual impact on the parts. So understanding is more holistic. And then I looked at the concept of wisdom in the Quran, which I found to be a kind of a meta-understanding. Once you have understood a discipline or an area, you want to make its best use. And making its best moral use, practical use, is what is hikmat, or wisdom in the Quran. So in a way, the book is a search for, on the basis of all the epistemic concepts and verses of the Quran, a search for a Quranic epistemology. And that was something that I wanted to, I had been hoping to do for a long time. And ultimately, I was able to put together this book. Quranic epistemology, as I recovered it from the verses of the Quran, turned out to be a virtue epistemology. Virtue epistemology is a recent trend in Western analytic epistemology, which has emerged after a crisis in epistemology that resulted from the work of Edmund Gettier. The crisis is still ongoing, and virtue epistemology has emerged as one of the ways to manage and handle that crisis. Virtue epistemologists, instead of focusing on the features of true belief, the features which make a true belief into knowledge, instead of focusing on them, virtue epistemologists focus on the features of the knower, the knowing agent, epistemic agent. What kind of epistemic or intellectual character we as agents, epistemic agents, need to have in order for us to be able to know things. So the character, epistemic character of the knowing agent is the focus. And I in my analysis and efforts to understand the Quranic verses came to the conclusion that Quran is, from the epistemic and moral point of view, its central idea is that of taqwa, which is a kind of intellectual and moral conscientiousness. So knowledge is a byproduct of application of intellectual virtues, and that is, I think, the central thesis of the book. That's why the book is called Epistemology of the Quran, Elements of a Virtue Approach to Knowledge and Understanding. Our current project is on the virtue ethics of the Quran. So, here I've covered intellectual virtues, and in the next book, I hope to cover all the moral virtues and vices that have been mentioned by the Quran and the way they connect with each other and constitute virtue ethics.